Welcome to Gas Cab, and I'm here with Mr. Ossie, who drives for Empower, and we're going to have a little Q&A on energy and fuels. Mr. Ossie, do you know where gasoline comes from?
It comes from a good number of places. Some come from Texas, some come from Saudi Arabia.
But what's it produced from? What do you make gasoline out of?
I know it's a petroleum product.
Yeah, petroleum product, oil, right. So, good point about where it comes from. So, where are some of the places that you believe, okay, do you think the United States makes all their own oil, or they import some?
They import some.
About how much?
20 to 40%.
Oh, okay. That's about right. From time to time, it's been as high as 70%. What percentage of that do you think where do you think that comes from? What countries?
I know from Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
A little from Africa, Venezuela.
Okay, Venezuela, right?
A little from Russia as well.
Russia used to. We can't do that anymore, but which is kind of why the price of oil is so high. And then, have you ever heard of OPEC?
Yeah, OPEC. Yeah, it's organization of petroleum producing countries.
Yes, right. And what's their mission? What's their job? Why did they get together?
Yeah, they act as a regulatory body. A regulatory body setting prices for petrol and gas and all those products.
Right. And then, do you think they're setting the price in your favor or theirs?
Definitely their favor, because we've got no choice.
You have no choice for what?
You get up tomorrow and they tell you gas is $6 per gallon. You don't have a choice.
Now, you've got a choice between Uber, Empower, and Lyft, and iPhone, and Android, and cable, and internet, and cars, and toothpaste. Why don't you think you have a choice in gasoline?
In gasoline, we don't really have a choice, because some kind of let me say, it might really come from a particular source.
We're gonna take a right here, right?
It might really come from a particular source, not like we don't have a choice.
We don't have a choice. Okay, great. So gasoline comes from oil. Do you know how many chemicals there are in gasoline?
I know there's so many. I don't really know. I don't know how many.
350, about.
Okay.
Can you name 3?
I don't really. I just know of ethylene, butane, and all those things.
Butane, right? Okay.
So I don't know exactly what are chemicals.
Okay. Have you ever heard of benzene?
Yeah, benzene. I know benzene.
Okay. Do you think benzene is good or bad, or?
These are all petroleum products. They are good. They are good. But we must come to that place where we tend to renewable energy.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that. So, do you know what the safe threshold for exposure to benzene emissions is?
Beg your pardon?
Do you know what the safe threshold for the exposure to benzene emissions is?
No, I don't know.
It's 0. Do you know who came up with that number?
No, I don't know.
The American Petroleum Institute. Do you know when they came up with that number?
No, sir.
1948. Do you know what percentage of your gasoline has benzene in it?
No, sir.
About 20%. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel a little bit comfortable.
A little uncomfortable.
Yeah. A little bit comfortable.
Yeah.
The risk
Yeah.
is not that high.
A little uncomfortable.
Because some of these are flammable. So if it's the consequence of the dangers are not that much, then you don't trouble too much.
Okay. So, have you ever seen the sticker on the gasoline pump that says this contains 10% ethanol?
Yeah, I think I know that it also contains ethanol.
Yeah, okay.
It also contains
Do you think ethanol is good or bad?
ethanol is flammable.
It's
Yes.
flammable.
It's flammable, so it's good. You know, it's good.
It's good because it burns and it goes, right?
Yeah, it's good.
Have you ever heard anything bad about ethanol?
Not really.
Food versus fuel, that we're using, food for fuel, or that it gets less mileage, or it pollutes. Have you heard any? You haven't heard any bad things?
No.
Oh, okay. Do you know how much ethanol you can use in your car? What percent?
I don't know.
So, okay, so you can use, right now it's all 10%. Do you know how much? Okay, it's because it's on the label. If you could buy 15% ethanol, would you buy it?
15% ethanol. No, it's not okay.
Okay. Would you buy 20% ethanol?
I wouldn't buy much because of the flammable nature of it.
You wouldn't buy it because of the flammable nature? It'd be too much?
Yeah.
Okay. If the car company said it was okay, would you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more concerned about the consequences on the environment. And
Okay, so
hazards.
so are you thinking ethanol is worse than gasoline or better?
I think ethanol is better than gasoline.
Okay, do you know why?
I think it all depends on emissions.
Right. So it's lower in carbon,
Yeah.
and it displaces benzene, and it's higher octane.
Mm-hmm.
So it does the things that we want to do: lower carbon, lower toxic emissions, lower benzene. Do you think ethanol costs more or less?
Less.
It does, by $1 a gallon. Do you think you get any of those savings?
It's not significant.
It's not significant, right?
Yeah, because it's not significant.
Do you know what the price difference is between regular unleaded and premium?
I think today it should be. I think today should be only $1.
Mm-hmm. So when you add ethanol to gasoline, ethanol is 120 octane. So it increases the octane of the gasoline. So they buy it for $1 less, and they charge you $1 more. And sometimes they say that ethanol increases the price of gasoline.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think that's true because it's going to be a mix.
But the mix would make it lower and better.
Lower and better.
Yeah, okay, so do you buy bottled water?
A bottle of water?
Do you buy bottled water?
Yeah, I buy plastic. Container.
Yeah, why? Why do you buy bottled water?
Bottled water.
It's cleaner, right?
It's cleaner.
Yeah, do you buy organic food?
Organic food. Yeah, sometimes.
And you pay more, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So generally you pay more for something that's a better product.
Yeah, that's right.
How much more would you pay for ethanol?
If it's a better product, then
Yeah, like a premium product.
like,
It's lower emissions, it's less toxic, it doesn't have benzene, it helps the country.
More for that.
How much?
Let's say $5 if the regular.
No, a gallon, per gallon.
Per gallon. $4.
Huh?
$4.
$4 more dollars?
Yeah, $4.
Oh, no, I'm saying how much more per gallon would you pay?
Would I pay? $1.
A dollar?
$1.
Okay. How about a nickel? Would you pay a nickel more?
A nickel?
I mean, I'm trying to. The dollar's very generous. I'm thinking more like 10 cents.
10 cents.
10 cents would be fair, right?
Yeah.
For an actual premium fuel.
That's right.
Great. Do you have any questions about ethanol or renewable fuels?
Renewable fuels.
for transportation, not
transportation.
not geothermal or wind or solar, just for cars.
Renewable will definitely be better. Will definitely be better in times like this, Definitely be better.
And what about creating jobs? That'd be important, right?
Like creating jobs, renewable. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think we better go into renewable sources,
And why do you think we don't?
Why do I think we don't go into that?
Why don't you think we have more ethanol?
I think the main concern is just the carbon concentration.
In half a mile, use the right 2 lanes.
The what?
Right to
Carbon
17th
concentration.
Street Southwest.
Okay.
Which of course lessens emission. Or do you think otherwise?
I didn't quite hear you. Say it again.
I said the main concern is the low carbon concentration, which lowers emissions into the air.
Right.
So
That's good.
I don't know if you think otherwise.
No, that's good. You're right. Ethanol has about 50% less carbon than
Other sources.
gasoline. What do you think about electric vehicles?
Electric vehicles, yeah.
Are you going to buy one?
Not now.
No.
No, expensive, man.
Right. So when they talk about electric vehicles replacing all vehicles, it sounds kind of tough. Do you think there's any reason to leave the benzene in instead of putting biofuels in?
Yeah, I think it's easy for us to leave the biofuels and focus on electric vehicles, because the way I see things go these days, we might find ourselves in a situation where we are stranded because of short supply. Something like fossil fuels take hundreds of years
Right. And where are you from?
Originally from Cameroon.
Where?
Originally from Africa, Central Africa.
Yeah. And how is crude oil production, exploration, how has that impacted your country? Positive or negative?
It has not really impacted. It's not really impacted.
Use the right 2 lanes to
Let me
keep
see.
right to
I can't really
17th
say
Street Southwest.
positive or negative, because much of this money in Africa enter the pockets of politicians.
Right.
Yeah. Some countries don't even have this money in their state budget.
Does your country have oil production?
Yes.
Oh. So they don't see that money doesn't trickle down.
It gets down to the pockets of politicians.
Yeah,
A few families.
the oil kind of just trickles. The oil kind of trickles into
families, a few families, French politicians and politicians in Africa, politicians of those countries in Africa.
so it doesn't trickle down.
It doesn't trickle down. We don't see anything, no benefit, man.
So if you could buy a car that ran on
Turn left on G Street.
85% biofuels, ethanol, renewable, cleaner burning, lower carbon emission, less priced fuel, or you could buy an electric vehicle, which one would you buy?
I think we'll see go back to the electric vehicle option, because the level of environmental degradation when it comes to things like getting all these petroleum products is high.
Okay, but what about where the electricity comes from? It comes from coal, it comes from nuclear, and those are emissions. Do you think about that?
Yeah. I think that's also a point. That's
Okay.
also a point. That's also a point to consider.
Did you think about that, or did you just?
No, I didn't really think much about that.
Yeah, because nobody talks about that.
Nobody talks about that.
They say it's free.
That's right.
It's free at your home. It's free in the air. There's zero emissions. And the problem is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology the MIT.
Yeah.
They think that maybe by the year 2050 there might be 50% electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much that's going to cost the country?
No, not at all. But I know
$2 trillion.
$2 $2
trillion because you have to have new infrastructure.
Yeah.
You have to have cars. I mean, and somebody has to pay the difference because nobody's going to do it for free.
Definitely.
So there's a hidden cost there of $2 trillion,
In 1,000 feet.
and then people that
Chase Creek Northwest.
can't recharge. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So to me, there's no reason that as long as we're going to have gasoline, which appears to be like a really long time, can you think of a reason why to leave the benzene in and not replace it with renewable biofuels?
Turn left on Chase
Why
Creek Northwest.
why they leave the benzene and not replacing it with? I didn't get your question. I didn't get you.
Huh?
I didn't understand your question.
So gasoline is going to be around a long time.
Right on 18th Street
Do you think there's any
Northwest.
reason to leave the benzene in and not replace it and not clean up gasoline now? Is there a good reason not to clean it up now while we wait for electric vehicles?
I think, I think the good thing is that we've been using this for a very, very, very long time, and a lot of our technology are all adapted to all these fuels. And if you have to make those changes right now, it's gonna be a little bit challenging.
Yeah, and cost.
The cost.
Do you have any questions for me? What are your doubts? What are your concerns? What are your fears?
My concern at this point is that this gas prices should go down. Should go down because I know there are other factors that definitely the president will talk about other factors, Russia, all those things, but it's expensive. It makes every other thing expensive, transportation and everything.
Everything, right. That's a very important point. It makes crude oil makes everything more expensive.
Because the petrol
So if you had an open market and you created more fuels, it would drive down the price of oil, which would drive down the price of everything, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So if you add more ethanol to the mix and you reduce the amount of demand for crude oil and gasoline, that would lower the price of everything, right?
That's right.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other fears, concerns, or questions?
Yeah, my worry is all about these sources. The sources are not renewable. I mean, they are not renewable sources.
They're not reliable.
They're not reliable.
And they don't even like us.
Let me not
They don't even like us.
Let me not even talk about renewable. They're not reliable, which means anything can happen anytime. So we must be thinking.
Okay, so whose responsibility is it if the oil companies can't do it because it's not in their best interest? Who do you think is responsible for changing status quo? Is it the government or the consumer?
It's the government.
Okay, so who in the government do you think should be responsible? Is it
The sector of
energy or environmental protection agency?
Environmental protection has a role.
Or both. Or both.
Both of them.
Yeah.
It's some kind of a synergy.
Yeah, right. It
But
should
you
be a
need-
synergy. They should work together.
You need energy. You need the EPA. You need. Of course, you need the politicians.
So do you think they've failed us?
I can't really say they have failed us, but I would say that almost in every country, politicians, they're beneficiary of petrol bonds.
But those are politicians. Those are elected officials. Those aren't, civil servants that have sworn by oath that they're going to do the right thing. I mean, that's why we, throw people out of office. We don't throw, the civil servants out of office. They're protected and they've sworn an oath to say, hey, I'm going to do the right thing regardless of the political power.
Yeah.
So do you think it's President Biden's fault that the price of oil and the price of gasoline is high today?
I don't really think he doesn't really has much to say.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything. That's hilarious. He doesn't have anything to say, and he was handed a house of cards.
Yeah. So,
And he's playing his house of cards the best he can, but how can everybody else fail for the last 100 years and it be his fault today, right?
That's right.
And your name one more time.
Turn right on Connecticut Avenue Northwest.
And your name one more time?
My name is Asi.
Mr. Assey, thank you very much for playing Gas Cab, and good luck in the future. And please
Turn right on Connecticut
search for
Avenue Northwest.
Gasoline Gate, hashtag Gasoline Gate, and you can follow along in this story.
Thank you.
You have a good night.